The wind howled through the creaky windows of our lake house, the same one that had been in my late husband's family for 3 generations. It sat isolated at the edge of Lake Whitmore, surrounded by tall pines and shaded hills that echoed every sound back like a secret whispered too loud. I had come here to find peace, a chance to reconnect with myself after years of uncertainty and grief. But I didn't come alone. My stepson, Tyler, 17 and more silent than ever, was with me. We were both trying to heal in our own ways, trying to fill the gap left by his father, my husband, Jason, who passed away last spring. Tyler wasn't one to talk much, especially not to me. We had always had a respectful but distant relationship, a sort of polite coexistence rather than anything maternal. I never tried to replace his mother, who had left when he was just a toddler. And while Jason had hoped we'd grow closer, he never pushed either of us. Now, with Jason gone, it felt like we were 2 strangers left with nothing but the echo of someone who had tied us together. The first few days at the lake house were quiet. Tyler spent most of his time in his room or down by the lake with his headphones on. I let him be. I cooked dinner, stacked firewood, and read books I'd brought but could never finish. At night, I'd hear him pacing sometimes, footsteps creaking on the old wooden floors above me, and I wondered if grief kept him awake too. Then, something strange happened on the 4th night. I had gone to bed early, around 10, feeling worn out by another long day of silence. The lake always looked eerie at night, like a black mirror, too still, too perfect. I left the kitchen window cracked open for fresh air and turned out the lights. Around midnight, I heard whispers. I wasn't sure at first, maybe the wind, maybe the trees, but then I heard it clearly. Tyler's voice. It wasn't the words that caught my attention first, it was the tone. Low, urgent, like someone trying to keep a secret. I held my breath and sat up in bed, straining to hear. There was a pause, then a few more words, soft but distinct. No, not yet. She's still here. I froze. There was no one else at the lake house. Or at least, there shouldn't have been. She goes to bed early, Tyler continued, the whisper even lower now. We just have to wait a few more days. I could feel my heart pounding, my breath shallow as I listened. Wait for what? Why did he sound so suspicious? I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Maybe he was on the phone with a friend. Maybe it was just a private conversation, and I was invading his space. But something about the tone in his voice left a chill in my chest. The next morning, I tried to act normal. I cooked breakfast, set out plates, and waited for Tyler to come down. He did, like he always did, slow and quiet, nodding a brief morning before grabbing some toast. I watched him carefully, trying to read his face. He didn't look guilty, but he didn't look entirely calm either. I couldn't ask him about the whisper, not without admitting I'd eavesdropped. So I did what any rational person would do. I told myself I must have misunderstood. The wind could have played tricks on me. Maybe he was talking about something harmless. But the feeling in my gut refused to fade. That evening, I decided to take a walk around the lake after dinner, hoping the fresh air would clear my mind. Tyler stayed in, as usual. The trees creaked in the breeze, and frogs croaked near the water's edge. As I walked, I thought about Jason, how he used to take Tyler fishing off the dock, how he loved this place. He would have known what to do. As I circled back toward the house, I saw something that stopped me cold. There were tire tracks leading away from the back shed, fresh ones, recent. We hadn't driven since we arrived, and the shed was supposed to be locked. I followed the tracks, heart racing, and saw they led into the woods behind the house, where a narrow service path connected to an old ranger road. I hadn't even remembered that road was still usable. Back inside, I pretended not to notice anything. I smiled at Tyler, made tea, and went to bed. But I didn't sleep. Instead, I stayed up, waiting. And around midnight, I heard it again. Tyler's whisper. This time I crept out of bed, silent as possible. I moved down the hallway barefoot, stopping near his door. The light was off, but the crack under the door glowed faintly. I pressed my ear gently against the wood. She's too nosy, he whispered, sharper than before. I told you we should have waited. Another voice responded, but I couldn't make out the words. A second voice. Someone else was in there. My skin went cold. I stepped back quietly, afraid of being caught. The next morning, I made a decision. We had to leave. Whatever Tyler was involved in, it was bigger than just teenage drama. He was hiding something, someone. And I didn't feel safe anymore. I tried to act calm through breakfast. Tyler barely looked at me. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept. I told him I wanted to take a quick trip to town for groceries, something I hadn't done since we arrived. He nodded, barely paying attention. Instead of driving to town, I went to the sheriff's office. Sheriff Dale Mathis was in his 60s, gruff but fair. He'd known Jason from high school. I explained everything, the whispering, the second voice, the strange tire tracks, the feeling that something was wrong. Sheriff Mathis didn't dismiss me, but he didn't act overly concerned either. Teenage boys do weird things, he said, scratching his chin. Could be just a buddy he snuck in. But why sneak him in? I asked. And why whisper like that? He agreed to drive out with me that afternoon, just to take a look. But when we got back to the house, there was no sign of anyone. Tyler was gone. So was the second sleeping bag I hadn't noticed missing before. We checked the shed. Empty. The tire tracks were gone too, smoothed over with a rake, or maybe a broom. He's hiding something, I said, trembling. Sheriff Mathis promised to keep an eye out and call if anything turned up. That night, I stayed packed. If Tyler returned, I didn't plan on being there. Around 2 a.m., I heard a car outside. I peered through the curtain. It was Tyler. And someone else. A boy around his age, lanky, dark hoodie pulled over his face. They were unloading something from the back of a van, bags, boxes, and what looked like a rifle. That was it. I grabbed my bag and moved silently toward the back door. I didn't turn on any lights. My heart hammered in my chest so loud I thought they'd hear it. As I stepped off the porch, I heard Tyler's voice again. We have until morning. That was all I needed to hear. I didn't know where they were headed or what they were planning, but I knew I couldn't stay and find out. I moved through the trees, staying low, keeping off the trail. I had left my car keys behind, but I had my phone and a flashlight. I turned the phone to silent and messaged Sheriff Mathis. They're here. Armed. I'm heading toward Ranger Road on foot. The message sent, and I ran. Behind me, I heard a door slam. Then voices. Then footsteps. They knew. They were coming. Branches whipped at my face as I ran. The forest felt like it was closing in. I slipped twice, caught myself on rocks and roots, but kept moving. I could hear them behind me now, running, cursing, getting closer.